The best bits of Florida, the Noles, no snow, no state income tax, and the white sands of the Gulf beaches. And the White Sands Breakfast Blend from DeLuna Coffee. A combination of 5 different beans, some roasted to a light roast, some to a dark roast. The end product, a perfect blend that will perk you up better than a day on the beach. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com to browse all their top shelf blends and check out their Facebook and Instagram. DeLuna Coffee, all one word. DeLuna Coffee, proudly owned and operated by the Lemmix family. Loyal and passionate FSU alum.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 when you go to DeLunaCoffee.com. You can save 15% on your order, or you can save even more if you buy the bundle. The bundle's already deeply discounted. $40 for 3 great items, which include the Wake Up Warchant tumbler, 1 bag of Palafox Place coffee. You can get that ground however you would like, maybe even the whole bean if that's your jam, and 1 chocolate-covered espresso beans tin. So you can get all that over at DeLunaCoffee.com. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code is Warchant30. We're doing lots of stuff for you over there on the ultimate Seminole sports source. Go visit. Get deep reads into everything that's going on. We're just on the surface here, Corey. We're on the surface, the deep dives, the good stuff. That's over at Warchant.com. How are you, Corey?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. How are you doing? Have a good weekend, I hope?
Yeah, man. Baseball's back. Let's go. Bat and ball sports. We'll talk about baseball, softball with a great weekend as well. Maybe basketball not as much, but it was good to get back at Hauser. You're practically living there this weekend. Good for you, man. I'm proud of you. Back
It was
grinding.
fun, man. It reminded me of the old days. I was really surprised. The crowd on Friday night was really good. They were really kind of good. There were strong crowds every, they weren't packed, but there were strong crowds every day. The weather, I think, had a lot to do with it. I also think having a team that doesn't strike out 18 times a game has a lot to do with it, too. It was a pretty fun team to watch this opening weekend, and the weather, man, could not beat it.
Nope.
Could not beat the weather this weekend, Aslan. It was but Sunday was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Also, which helps lift our boats, just to see Florida lost. Liberty walks into, I don't even, is it still called McKeithen? I don't even know what the place is called. What they call that dump. But
right.
I'm sure it's nice now. They've invested millions of dollars into it. But they lost. They lost to Liberty to start their season off. Mississippi State, the defending national champs, SEC, they lost at home to Long Beach State this weekend. They dropped that series. So good to see those loud, arrogant people failing miserably. They probably will get the last laugh, but hey, we'll enjoy it while we can.
I think Florida might have lost 2 or 3, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost a series to Liberty. Yeah, Mississippi State lost their series to Long Beach State, man. So there you go.
All right.
We'll talk about how Florida State's baseball fortunes worked out, softball again, basketball. Corey, I do want to start off with football. I know, crazy everybody. We're talking about football on the show.
Hey, spring practice is fast approaching.
It is.
2 weeks.
It is, everybody.
2 weeks.
Catch the fever. Subscribe to the website. You're going to definitely want access for spring football. Starting out, it'll carry you through most of it. But I guess we'll start off with the expansion stuff that did not happen. It's trying to kind of hammer down, Corey, and figure out why the 12-team playoff did not get approved. It had to be voted on unanimously by the 10 conference commissioners and Jack Swarbrick, so there's 11, and it goes 8-3 in favor. The 3 that said no, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, Pac-12 Commissioner George Klivikoff, and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. Valid reasons, although a little bit vague. There hasn't been any sort of consensus story out there that really lays bare everything. But there were just some quotes from Greg Sankey that this gives me a little bit of Schadenfreude or whatever it's called. The SEC Commissioner told Sports Illustrated whether he views this as a failure. One of the things the Big Ten had to hold up on was that they wanted automatic qualification for all Power 5 conference champions, which I can't believe anybody would say no to. But apparently people in the room didn't want to go along with that. So that was the Big Ten sort of bargaining chip. Pac-12 Commissioner's only been on the scene for less than a year, so he kind of has a whole different sort of circumstances he's walking into and doesn't want to agree to things that he doesn't know how they're going to look with all these TV contracts coming up here in the near future being renegotiated with the conferences. And then the ACC in the same boat. Like, why commit to this now while everybody else is in such a stronger position than you are, and the sport looks completely different than it did 6 months ago, 8 months ago? Like, who knows what it's going to look like? And they're in the middle of this term. So, again, they could vote for it, but everybody had to approve it. Not everybody did. It didn't go 11-0, went 8-3. Greg Sankey told Sports Illustrated, I don't view this as a failure. I've got 5 teams in 8 years that have won championships, 3 different teams in the last 3 years. So we're fine. Why would I call failure about something that we are exceedingly good at achieving at a high level? So, when you got people like that in the room, I'm sure, no one wants to look in the mirror and be like, I'm probably not helping matters out. But when you got people, which he's right, but, I don't think Kevin Warren wants to hear that. I hope Jim Phillips doesn't take kindly to hearing that kind of stuff. But ultimately, maybe this is the first step into hopefully them figuring out to look at this in the big picture, Corey, or is that just totally being naive? Like, will they ever be able to all look at this from like the 5,000-foot view and look at this as like, we got to preserve the sport. We have to preserve dozens upon dozens of school instead of just, hey, we're going to look out for our own personal best interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that will probably all come to a head if they don't come up, if they don't agree to something, which it sounds like, what is that going to run through, 2025, 2026?
Yeah. Through 25.
That seems, and they can always go back and renegotiate. Like, things can always change. Just because what happened this past weekend doesn't mean that, like, 4 months from now they might not come together and agree on something, and then they can start a 12-team playoff next year. Like, not in 2022, but 2023. That's going to be on the table. But I think it'll come to a head when the playoff agreement runs out. Like, they're going to be these conferences. The SEC would love to just play with itself. What a T-shirt that would be. That's what they want to do. That's what they think. They're the only thing that matters in the sport. So they're not, but they are the big dog. They're the big dog on the block. But yeah, again, to have a sport, to have a true national champion, you need other conferences. And I'm surprised it was the Big Ten that was the other one. I would have figured it had been the Big 12 that was a holdout, not the Big Ten. But because the Big Ten makes plenty of money, and they're up for another TV deal here soon, so I would have thought they'd be in the same, they'd be lockstep with the SEC. But yeah, man, I think people are just tired of the SEC dominating the sport. And right now, the ACC, and I want a 12-team playoff, and I think it would be good for the sport, truly, because it gives, like I've said, it gives, instead of 6 teams battling for 4 spots, you've got 16 or 18 teams that come down to the last weekend with a real chance with playoff implications on the line. That's good for the sport. More teams in the playoffs is good for the sport. Not good for the players. That's just more wear and tear on their bodies, but it is good for the sport, and it's more money for everyone. But the ACC has no leverage other than this. Like, nobody wants the 14 playoff to continue. Sankey can say what he wants to say. He knows those ratings are terrible. He knows the country is irked at this. There's always 2 bad semifinal games, and it's an SEC school against somebody else. It's just not good for the sport. The ratings keep going down, and they will continue to plummet. I promise you. If Notre Dame's not in it, or if a new team isn't in it, from like USC would help. But if it's just the same old, the ratings are just going to keep going down because we're tired of it. We're tired of the same teams. We're just tired of this sport. We're tired of 5 teams mattering. I'm sure Sankey isn't, but the rest of us are. And the ACC has leverage right now to say, even it out. Even it out. And what are they? So when we talk about spending money and divvying up money and everything else, when you think about the basketball tournament, that's the NCAA controls that. And what do they? I think CBS pays them. I don't know, Aslan. Look it up, Aslan. Look it up, Aslan. Look it up. Can you look up like what that is each year? What the NCAA gets paid by CBS and ESPN? I assume it's just CBS. Yeah, CBS for the March Madness property. I think it's $1 billion deal. Maybe not per year, but it's a ton of money.
In 2021, the original contract, which was signed, I think in 16. Here we go. The original contract with the NCAA was 14 years at $10.8 billion, which is $770 million per year.
That's crazy. And that, now understand that fund, that's not just going to all the other, that's not going to all whatever 300 Division I teams necessarily. It is divvied up. That's how the NCAA runs itself. That's how they put on all these other talk about socialism, that funds everything. That funds the women's basketball championships. That funds the lacrosse championships, the tennis championships. All the money the NCAA spends to host those events, golf, everything else, and fly those teams out there, that all comes from that pool of money from the basketball tournament. But my point is, when they do a true playoff, what are those numbers going to be? If you did a 12-team playoff, number one, what do you think would that be $1 billion a year, you think?
Yeah, I mean, they signed an 8-year extension for basketball that carries it to 2032, and the 8-year contract extension, it was for $8.8 billion. So
football might be $1.5 billion, right?
I would at minimum.
You'd think,
right?
like, well, I mean, I know it's less teams, less games. You know, the March Madness goes on for 3 weekends, but I guess this would, and it's a lot of content. Like, it's noon to noon, it's noon to midnight. So there's more content, so you're getting more bang for your buck and everything. But I think you could get. I guess my question is, so let's say they re-up for $1.2 billion. Is that all split evenly? Where does that money go? How does that money get divvied out? Because that might be a sticking point. The SEC might argue, look, if we have 4 teams in there, we want a third. We want if we have 4 of the 12, we deserve 33% of the money. Mountain West, you didn't have anybody in there, you don't get any of the money. ACC, you didn't have anybody in there, you don't get any of the money. So that might be a real sticking point as to how that money is spread out. Because, you know, truthfully, in all honesty, it should be the Power 5 teams all split the $1.2 billion. Right. Then you're on more of an even field, aren't you, Aslan? Don't you think?
Yeah. I get it, man. Like, right now, if you're the ACC, if you're the Pac-12, you haven't really been this weak in a long while in terms of what your football programs are. This contract is still in place. Everybody's pro-expansion.
Yes.
Like, Jim Phillips is pro-expansion. George Kliavkoff is pro-expansion. But right now, with so many kind of unknowns out there, like, why go ahead and blow this thing up right now? Like, go ahead, let the clock run out, get yourself maybe in a little bit of better standing. Again, also, like the Big Ten, a couple of these other, I think even the Pac-12, their TV contracts are going to come up for renegotiation.
Right.
That's going to kind of reset the bar of how you're going to go ahead and proceed with the way the playoff is going to be. So, like, it makes sense. It's kind of disheartening to see all this, like, sniping going on. It's mainly coming from, like, the SEC corner of the internet towards everybody else. When it's like, all right, like, we get it. I don't know, like, what else victory lap do you want? We understand you're more powerful than everybody. Like, we're trying to figure things out here. So, like, excuse us for not, cutting our nose off to make you guys happy. And then the whole the Texas and Oklahoma expansion thing, apparently in some of this reading, really rubbed all the commissioners the wrong way too, man. They just
you think,
so people are acting like this makes absolutely no sense, and it's frustrating. But again, like, when this contract is up, they are going to expand. It's just they are not going to blow it up right this second. So, and again, hopefully we'll be in better standing in this conference. I think Jim Phillips gets it. That's vague or whatever, but I think he'll go to battle for this conference and realize just how important it is to squeeze everything they possibly can out of this. So.
It'll be interesting too. Like, are they going to allow unlimited number of teams from one conference? So will the SEC get 6 teams in the playoffs? Because that's not good for everything either. That's not good for the sport. No. So I do think you have to cap, and I'm sure that's what the SEC is fighting, is capping how many teams from one conference can come. And you could be like, look, that's not fair. If you're one of the 3 or 4 best teams, if you're number 9 in the country, but you're 4th in the SEC, you should be allowed to go. It's like, no, man. That's part of the allure of getting to play in the SEC. You get all this extra money to play with and hire 1 million people, but you better finish in the top 3 or you don't get to play for the national championship. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair trade-off. I think the Mississippi schools should be like, okay, good point. Again, look at the AL East, man. The AL East has a lot of really good teams in the Major League Baseball. They all don't get to go to the playoffs. So even though they had better records than, like, whoever won the AL West sometimes, that happens a good bit. That's just sports. So I would love for them, if they can cap it at 3 or 4 per conference. I think that's the key to getting that done. Because, again, we're all sick and tired of the SEC dominating everything. And before you say, I know people listening to this probably wouldn't, but before you say, well, then do something about it, again, $25 extra million a year per school. The SEC, ACC, the SEC Big 12, the SEC Pac-12. It is not the level playing field. It's at almost a 90-degree angle at this point, that playing field, or 45. It's a 45-degree angle, that playing field. So yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard to compete, and they got to figure out something. And you're right too. Like, reset it. Let's see how this year goes out. Let's see if there ever becomes NIL regulations.
Right.
And go from there. There might not be. There might be. I don't know. There might be a course correction. We'll see how all this goes. I know you texted me that thing about Caleb Williams already has 5 sponsorship deals. He's
sorry,
probably
Mike.
getting his.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Mike. I know I told you to sell your soul, but I think even if you sold your soul and your daughter's soul, probably still not going to get Caleb. So.
Yeah, he's making as much. He's making more in sponsorships than Matthew Stafford.
What's it going to be?
They play
like,
in the same city.
Corey, what's it going to be like? Honestly, when I don't know, like 3-4 years from now, the people that we're interviewing make more money than we do. I mean, I know that's how it works in the pros.
Yeah,
it's not weird
fine
for them, but I don't know. Will it be weird like when a 19-year-old kid who hasn't even taken ENC 1102 is like talking down to us? I don't know. What a crazy world we live in right now. Let me try to find that tweet in case people wonder. Yeah, Caleb Williams has a licensing deal with Fanatics, an NIL deal with Beats by Dre. Apparently, is a pitchman for a water company. Joined a real estate private equity fund. And is part owner of a men's grooming company.
Okay. A men's grooming company.
I don't know.
Okay.
He's got
nice.
good facial hair.
Hey, Caleb, get after it, man. Caleb, get well, the problem is, like, he has what bothers me about that, honestly, and I'm not one of the get off my lawn guys. It's fine, whatever. He hasn't done anything at USC. Like, he's not. If Caleb Williams walked into a downtown restaurant in Los Angeles, what percentage of people would know who he was? 11%? 15%? Yeah. Maybe 5%. Some of them wouldn't even know who Cooper Kupp is or Stafford. They're certainly not going to know the USC quarterback that has done jack squat at USC. That's what's it's an enticement to get them to come there. It's not something they've earned. Like Jordan Travis could go get some Applebee's ads or whatever. That's fine. He's a known person in Tallahassee. He's earned it. Trent Forrest, somebody like that. But this guy hasn't even done anything at USC. And he's not a big name in that market because it's not a huge college football town. It was solely to get him to go there.
They say that if SC's riding high, you're the biggest show in town. Like, you're going to get more juice than the Rams.
Well, remember now, they said that when the Rams weren't there.
Yeah. And
the Rams are now a Super Bowl team. But you're probably right. But again, when they're rolling, it's like Miami in that sense. They're better fans than Miami. I'm not trying to. I would. If there are any USC fans listening, I apologize. That was a horrible slight. Good grief, I apologize. You wouldn't say that to your worst enemy, that you're like a Miami fan or the Miami fan base. But they are, big city, lot to do. When they're not good and they have not been good, it is not a rabid community fan base just because this community is so big. It's not a college town, I guess is my point. Bryce Young in Tuscaloosa, he is a huge deal. You can understand why he'd get huge advertising opportunities. This guy, again, he's not moving the needle in Southern California, especially not right now because he never played a game. Matt Leinart would have, but Matt Leinart won a Heisman and won a bunch of games, and that was when they were the only show in town. So that would have made sense. This is purely, let's get this guy here. Let's offer him this, 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 and this. He has no, what do they call that? Is it a Q rating?
Yeah, Q rating.
His Q rating in Southern California is like mine. We could both walk into a Walmart, and they probably don't have those out there. We could both walk into a
Trader Joe's,
a Gucci store. Yeah, I was
better.
I was trying to think of what's those fancy grocery stores that only sell like organic stuff.
Fresh Market, Whole Foods.
Yeah, there you go. One of those things that out in California, or an In-N-Out. Nobody's going to know who he is, just like nobody knows who I am. That's purely just to get him there. That's the thing that bothers me the most. But it's fine. It doesn't really bother me, but it's just, you're right, it's a whole different world we live in.
Speaking of Miami, what do you think about them hiring Charlie Strong? My bad, everybody. It's my bad. We were sitting here making fun of them. And now they've made some pretty good hires. I don't want Charlie Strong to be my defensive coordinator. But as a linebackers coach, that's not a bad hire. That's a pretty good hire. I think it's maybe a little bit, maybe an edge I'd give that over the Randy Shannon hire just because, I don't know, he's quote-unquote coming from like a failing NFL team as opposed to have like flamed out at UCF. But, I mean, probably not discernibly better, but maybe on paper it sounds a little bit more sizzly if you're Miami. We just got an NFL guy to coach our linebackers. I mean, LSU's defensive coordinator is the linebackers coach for the Chiefs. A little bit better franchise than the Jags.
Right.
But Yeah, with
I don't know. I think
it's
about even, right? I think the trade-off, I don't know, the names are the names. They're both big enough names. They're also, they were head coaches, a decade ago? Like, it's been a while for Charlie Strong. He was fired from Texas in 2015, right?
Yeah, but he replaced Willie, though, at USF. But that didn't
that's right. But he's been a failed head coach since Louisville.
Right.
And so I don't know that name really resonates with people. Just like Randy Shannon's name, I don't think resonates with kids. Like, there aren't many 16-year-olds that know who Randy Shannon is or that he coached Miami at one point. But their coaches know.
Yep.
Their high school coaches know, and I do think that if you look at it, I mean, Randy Shannon, I have to imagine has deeper ties in that area than Charlie Strong does, just because went to high school there, college, won a national championship there, assistant coached forever, coached there as head coach. So I would think you would hope that Randy Shannon's name would carry a little more weight in that part of the world than Charlie Strong's. But yeah, that's fine. It's fine as a linebackers coach. It's a linebackers coach. Who are you looking to get?
Yeah. Also, I saw that apparently Miami has scheduled Florida State for a homecoming.
Really?
Like, look at Mario. Mario just trying to flip the script, change the entire dynamic of everything. It's kind of rude, Mario. I don't know why you would do that. We'll remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good
Player of the Week.
You heard the man. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Honors go to Corey. Corey, who you got?
I was going to go baseball. I know you're going softball. There's a lot to choose from, man.
Am I? Could I go rogue? I might go rogue.
You could go track again. There's a lot of possibilities. On the baseball team. You had Reese Albert going 6 for 6 the last 2 days. You had Bryce Hubbard with 13 Ks in 5 innings. But I'm going to go with the new transfer for Miami, Alex Toral. Aslan? Toral?
Yeah,
Toral.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really good. He had 9 RBIs. He's going to be a guy that his swing is perfect for that park. And what I liked, he had the grand slam, but he also had like 3 or 4 2-strike RBIs in situations, runner on third, less than 2 outs. He got a base hit one time, just shortened up, got a base hit. Another time he had a fly ball to medium depth left field. It's the kind of stuff they weren't doing last year. Runner on third, less than 2 outs, 2 strikes, making sure you put the ball in play and getting a run home. And that's what he seemed to do really well. He had a couple bad at-bats too, but most of them were very good. Had 2 doubles on Sunday, a grand slam and a double on Saturday. The dude looks legit. So he's my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week.
All right. I'm not going to go rogue. Shout out to the softball team, national runners-up, on a good start. 10 up, 10 down for them. They're 10-0 on the year. We're recording this a little bit later than we planned because they went into extra innings. Back in my stomping grounds, the Eddie C. Moore Complex in Clearwater, Florida. It's where I played a slow-pitch softball with my beer league friends. But they converted into a magnificent venue for the ladies. Florida State capping things off with a victory over top 10 UCLA. Michaela Edenfield, that's my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. She had 3 home runs. She's a true freshman from Sneads. Sneads, stand up. Let's go. 1A FHSAA teams, all about it. So Michaela Edenfield, being a freshman, hitting 3 jacks in such a huge setting for Florida State. She is my Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. To join along with Alex Terrell, our Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. So yeah, Corey, as I intimated earlier when we were doing our Zaxby's read, doing this a little bit later than we might have imagined. Softball, it's a beautiful game because it's fast. It should be over in like hour 30 minutes. But we hung on the edge of our seats on Sunday evening as Florida State took down UCLA. What a start for them, man! 10-0, huh? They've beat a lot of good teams.
Yeah, they just beat 5 ranked teams in a row down there at that tournament. And almost run ruled a couple of them. I mean, they were run rule UCF earlier on Sunday.
That was correct.
Yeah, man, that's a really impressive weekend. I mean, good grief. Legitimately I think they beat 3 top 10 teams, 5 top 25 teams. And then the win over UCLA on Sunday was like that. It really did. They kept saying it on the broadcast, but it did feel like it felt like a Oklahoma City type game, like a postseason type game.
Yeah.
It's just 2 really good teams, and Sandra Cock is nails.
Seriously,
she's just so good. She came in relief of Watson and was just really good. She even overcame an error in that top of the 8th and still didn't allow a run. Janai Kerr, by the way, I think I said Johnny. I think with the spelling like that, Jahni, I just assumed it was Johnny. And Johnny Kerr is a cool name.
So did I.
But it's Janai, so I apologize for that.
Sorry, Janai.
She had a bad error in the second or third inning that allowed a run to score, but then she came back and made really the play of the game in the top of the eighth.
Center fielder? Is she the center fielder? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, she made a bad error that allowed a run to score. She dropped a fly ball on the warning track and then came back and ran down that ball in the gap and left center to keep the game at tied and then set up the stage for Harding, Kaylee Harding. I mean, it wasn't a bomb because it didn't go over the fence, but good grief, she crushed that thing. That's as hard as you can hit a softball, I think. She crushed that. Like the left fielder thought she was going to run over and catch it. It's like, nope, that's over my head into the fence. Yeah. Ball game. So yeah, man, that's a really good win by a team that you just assume is going to make the plays when it matters. And they do, and they did, and they got themselves another win.
Yeah. Wins this week included number 15 Tennessee. They took down 9-3. Took down number 9 Texas 9-2. Edged past number 16 Michigan 2-1. Run ruled number 24 UCF. And wrapped it all up with that win Sunday on ESPN, nationally televised. A big spot for Lonnie and the ladies.
And you mentioned Edenfield, right? I mean, think about, she's only a freshman. I think she might be a redshirt freshman, by the way. I'm not sure. But either way, I think I read that when I was looking her up earlier on Sunday night. Man, she is going to hit cars in the park. She's going to hit cars in the parking lot. She's going to hit cars on that road that goes between the parking garage and the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that is great. She is 6'1", and she pulverizes the ball. Yeah. Like that shot she hit on Sunday night, I mean, good night.
Yeah, she's
that
a
ball
cyborg. I love it.
I mean, that was nuts. She hit the bejesus out of that thing. And she's from Sneeds, right? So it's not like she's a player that, I mean, maybe all the big schools were after her, but it feels like a Sneeds player is a little bit more of a diamond in the rough. And I know they don't recruit high schools as much as they recruit travel teams. Like you get on a good travel team, and that's how you get noticed in Saltwell in every sport really these days. But it's really cool a girl from a small high school like that now as a freshman on the big stage has become one of the best hitters on one of the best teams in the country. Cool to see, man. Cool to see. They just keep doing it. It's just what they do. The names can change. Some of them stay the same, but the new girls come in, and it just doesn't seem to matter. They don't really miss a beat.
Yeah, and she's hitting the portal up nicely, Coach Alameda. Mac Leonard, I think, was from Illinois State, and I think she's already has something like over 14 hits in through the 9 games they had. So, she's doing it in every which way.
And the lady,
the shortstop played for USF last year, I think, when it pulled her. So
no, I think it was the first baseman played for USF, the one that had the 2-run single in the game. And I think she's she's a 5th or a 6th-year senior. But yeah, they go and find pieces to go along with, again, two
Bethany
really good
Keene.
pitchers.
Bethany
Keene had a really big hit. She also had a walk in a big moment too. But they go and find people like that are pieces, nice pieces. Mac Leonard is like a star hitter, but Bethany Keene is just a nice piece. It's a good person to have on a team. And then you go along with Sandercock and Watson. I mean, Sandercock's as good as one of the best pitchers in the country. And just never seems phased. Just never seems phased. So yeah, man, they're a fun team to watch. And you're right. Usually softball games are quick. The one on Sunday night was not. It was about 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think some of that had to do with the TV commercials and everything, and then also going to extra innings in the international tiebreaker. But man, good win, 10-0, man. 10. They should be top. I would guess I would put them number 2, Aslan. If I'm voting, and you know me, I watch a lot of softball.
Right.
Oklahoma apparently is 10-0 as well, and they've outscored their opponents 95-2. So this is a lot of fun. But either way, I would put Florida State at number 2. Because I can tell you this, nobody's had a better first 10 games than Florida State, including Oklahoma, because they haven't beaten the likes of what Florida State just went through a whole weekend. That's as impressive a weekend as you can have in February playing softball.
Yeah. We'll see you in Oklahoma City in the summer, Sooners. We'll see you there.
You better be ready, because Nole Nation's coming.
And then meanwhile on the diamond, Corey, Florida State started their season off this weekend. James Madison came to town. The Dukes, which Florida State's football team will open their season against the Dukes. But different mascots, though. Same mascot name, Corey. The Dukes of James Madison were like a bulldog with a crown on its head. Meanwhile, the Duquesne Dukes, The guy looks like some sort of steampunk, old-timey warlock. I don't know. I can't describe. Just looks like
a different kind,
yeah,
different thing altogether.
Different thing altogether.
Okay.
Nonetheless, this is the first time under Mike Martin Jr. Florida State sweeps their series opening set of the year. So that was really encouraging. You were there Friday and Sunday. I was there Saturday. Bryce Hubbard blew me away, as did Alex Terrell, the transfer from Miami, but that's just kind of surface stuff. Let's take a deep dive into it. Don't want to make too many assumptions after only a 3-game sample of what's going to be whatever a 60, 70-game season. But my goodness, all the sort of things that we had heard, we're hoping and anticipating for, really delivered in every sort of way possible. I know there's maybe some base running stuff we'll get hopefully cleaned up, but man, really good weekend, really good sort of start to what could maybe be a special season, hopefully.
Yeah, it's hard to know. It is James Madison, so you have to look under that prism that it was, it wasn't, Clemson or Miami or anybody like that you were playing, but you saw everything you wanted to see. The team put the ball in play a lot more. They were a lot better with runners on third and less than 2 outs. I don't think they made an error on a ground ball. Now, there weren't many ground balls. I think there were like 9 hit all weekend because Florida State was striking all the hitters out. The first 2 games they struck out 18 on Friday night, 18 out of 27, and then the next night was 19 out of 27. And the next afternoon was 19 out of 27. So 37 of the 54 outs were strikeouts in the first 2 games, and out of those 17 outs, I think the other 17, I think 12 of them were pop-ups or flyouts. So you didn't get a real feel for how much better the defense is going to be, but you wouldn't anyway because Tyler Martin was out and the kid from Florida were out, and that's your starting shortstop. Those are 2 of your starting infielders probably. So, Jackson Green got some play. The freshman Rank, I think that's his name, Tristan Rank. It's a cool name. Trayton Rank.
Jordan Carry-On is the Florida transfer. That's the presumptive starter at shortstop.
Old Trey Rank, who wears that cowboy hat in his picture on the video board.
He's from Buford, I think.
Yeah, he is from Buford, which I'm like, and Stephanie was, because that's where my other address is, and is technically Buford. She's like, is that a cowboy town? I'm like, no. I mean, there are some country people there. It's Georgia. It's a rural area. It's a little bit rural, but yeah. It's not like he's from Amarillo, Texas.
I thought your address was Decula.
Don't worry about it, Aslan. Don't worry about it. Actually, you're right. It is Decula. But Shanna's, where I used to live.
Right.
That's Buford. Right. Anyway, but yeah, I thought overall you saw everything you needed to see. I thought the 2 starting pitchers were dominant.
Absolutely.
Hubbard,
yes.
I don't get it with Hubbard either. Like, it's 88. He's topping out at 88 or 89, but those guys can't put the ball in play. Now, that'll change as he faces better competition. But still, James Madison is an awful baseball team, and they couldn't make contact with the ball against the kid that was throwing 88. It just moves so much, I guess. It rises up. It does something where they just have a hard time seeing it. I thought most of the bullpen looked good. Sunday was a little sloppy because it was a bunch of walks, way too many walks. They were all on 3-2 pitches. They had 10 walks, and literally I think all 10 walks were on 3-2 pitches. They just couldn't throw those final pitches for strikes. I think the umpire was squeezing them a little bit. But, overall, I think you like what you saw. I think it was – they hit well. They hit the opposite field. They shortened their swings. They had good approaches. They just weren't taking wild hacks. The Toral kid, again, it's James Madison. He looked really good, man. He had a bomb of a grand slam, but also had a couple opposite field doubles. I think he had 9 RBIs over the weekend. Brett Roberts, now we got to work on the base running, man. But he has a really solid bat. That's an impressive bat, too. And you start thinking about, okay, well, if Carry-On's as good as they think he is, and you know what Tyler Martin can do with the bat, or his eye for that matter. I mean, and he gets on base.
Yes.
He's an on-base machine. So when those come back to the lineup, it lengthens the lineup where maybe some guys at the end there that struggled this weekend won't be in the lineup. And I would say the one thing you got to wonder about is Ross Dunn on Sunday had a really not impressive start. Had 4 walks and got pulled in the 3rd inning. I think he might have given up an earned run. I think, but he struck out. He had a 1-2-3 first, and then really struggled. I think he walked 2 guys in each of the next 2 innings and was pulled. You can't have that. You got to get better about that. He'll probably get one more chance to. And I know that seems like not necessarily fair. Like, okay, man, you're only going to give this guy one more chance, but you got. Until you go to somebody else. You got too many arms in the bullpen. You got too many arms on this team to have a guy that you can't count on Sunday, because there is somebody in that batch that can give you 5 or 6 innings every weekend, who could be a very good college pitcher, starting pitcher. And Ross Dunn doesn't want to give them an opportunity to go try to find it. But other than that, I liked almost everything I saw. Catcher, I was a little. It's not just that Colton Vincent didn't get a hit all weekend. I wasn't overly impressed with the defense. I don't remember him throwing anybody out. Now, those weren't his fault. Guys were getting huge jumps, but he wasn't a wall behind the plate. He had a pass ball or two, had a few wild pitches that got by him. And he's got to be, if he's not going to be a bat, he's obviously not going to be Matt Nelson, and he's going to be better than batting 0. But if he's going to be one of the weaker bats in the lineup, which he probably will be, he's got to be a wall behind the plate. That defense is too important to this team, and these pitchers are too good to just give up free bases. So hopefully that was just a bad weekend for him, and he'll come out of it. But they got that kid from Oklahoma State,
Brock Mathis,
who transferred in. So that's always a possibility too. But yeah, man, I liked what I saw. They outscore them 27-7. That's a pretty good opening weekend.
How about Reese Albert, man?
I ain't lying.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even think he started on Friday night.
He did start on Friday night. He did not start Saturday.
Okay, yeah, that one I was out there. But I think I was they figured they might be able to run away with it and then bring him on in. Him and Isaiah Perry kind of split some action out there. But yeah, that's him. Lacey. I mean, Logan Lacey just looks very unassuming, but he's just productive. I mean, he's that whole.
Yeah,
gritty thing,
I think he might be their best hitter.
Yeah, he's the baseball player.
Yeah, man, he's good.
Yeah, Terrell Roberts was good at the plate. If Reese, I don't know if leading off with Reese is what they're going to look like, what they want to look like. They're going to look completely different in mid-March than they do right now, as you said, with Carrion not being out there and Tyler not being in the lineup. Maybe a little bit more pop. It'd be nice if they had a little more pop, but maybe this is what Mike Martin Jr. talked about after the game. Listen, they've always been about the big inning. They had a bunch of crooked numbers on the board all weekend long, and I think, with the exception of maybe the 4th inning on Saturday, it wasn't because of sloppy play from the opposition. It wasn't errors and crazy plays. I mean, it was getting the bat on the ball, moving guys around. I mean, they delivered. Maybe they knocked out 14 hits on a Sunday. I think they had more than that on Saturday too. So good start. Good start. Again, not trying to crown anybody prematurely, but just talking to him on Friday, somebody was asking about this on the baseball board. I mean, this is a university with, I think, we got 3 different coaches that have won national championships. Lonnie, Brayman, and Krikorian.
Yeah.
Man, nobody strikes me as being more self-assured than Meat. Not to say that they're not confident who they are, but, man, Meat just has a complete top-to-bottom idea of what he wants his program to look like. And, come hell or high water, he's going to try to figure out a way to make it happen. And it was kind of cool talking to these guys before the game on Friday. Just was joking with these guys about, hey, how's Meat been this offseason? Is he a little bit more laid back? And Hubbard said it. Ross Dunn said it. I think I asked all of them on Friday, Messick, Hubbard, and Dunn, I think, is who we all got to speak with. And all of them said, he's different. He's not ever going to be relaxed or laid back. And then Meat said as much of I didn't have to yell as much this offseason. They know what they're doing. So I know people got a little bit antsy with the way last season worked out, them not even making it out of the regional round. But, man, he believed in what he wanted to get done and the guys that he already had, and he brought in some new dudes. Terrell had a great weekend. Roberts had a great weekend. And they've got a crazy 1-2 punch right now with Parker and Bryce. So not saying Omaha, but everybody, listen, if you went to a public school, we went to a private school, we all had summer vacation, right, Corey? That's what I think I like about Omaha. Omaha, to me, feels like summer break for adults.
Okay.
I'd go out there. I'm like, this is summer vacation. Shoot, last time I went, you brought your son with you. You had your girlfriend, Stephanie, with you. It was like, yeah, you're pretty much on vacation, but, you're working, you're grinding, you're Corey Clark. You can do 2 things at once. It's a really good time out there, and I'm looking forward to it because I believe in this team. So I did.
So you're looking forward to going to Omaha?
I mean, why not? Who's going to stand in our way? Who's going to stand in our way?
Nobody, Aslan. I can't see anybody. It's going to be hard for them to lose a game this year. Maybe when they clinch the ACC, they just they play their worst players or something. They don't want to go. You don't want to go into the postseason 56-0.
No.
I've always said that.
I think I looked it up.
It's too much pressure.
The last 2 years under 11, I think they started off crazy. I think they at least had 10 wins in a row. his last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I remember joking, they're not going to lose one game, which obviously you will lose many games in a season. But it's good to get that season opening sweep. Very good thing. They're back in action Tuesday at Jacksonville. They got some midweekers. They're going to Mercer as well. They'll be in Macon, I think, in 2 weeks as well, which is bizarre.
Okay.
Like, what do we?
Maybe I'll go to that game. That's fun.
Yeah, why not? Shout out to intern Zach, by the way. He was helping out at the game as well this weekend. So he was trying to go to Georgia Tech maybe for that set, but apparently I think that's spring game weekend.
Yeah, that's gonna fall. That's not gonna take precedence. That nobody's gonna read our college baseball stories the weekend of the spring game probably.
Start.
By the way,
everybody, catch the fever. Get on board.
Yeah,
with this
man,
thing.
and
There's no
literally
Major League
like
baseball. So what you
I was
for?
gonna say I don't know if that has something to do with it or it was the weather, but it just seemed like a bigger crowd and a better crowd than what I've been accustomed to here lately. And I don't know why that was. Obviously, last year there were none. And the year before it got canceled, but the season got canceled. But even like 18, 17, I don't feel like the crowds were like that. It just seemed like they were into it more. I don't know, or they were livelier and there was more of them.
Normal. It felt normal this weekend, didn't it, Corey?
Yeah.
For the first sporting event, for me, it felt like the first sporting event. Like I didn't wear a mask in the press box. I didn't feel like the overwhelming need to have done it. Now I sat in the front row with the window open, so. Maybe that helps a little bit. I'm still doing my mitigation, everybody.
Right.
Mitigation is a good thing. But I think like it just felt like 2018. It felt like 2019. It felt like, a normal-ish kind of event to go out to.
Yeah, but
so
I wonder like if this team will like have some the fandom will grow because of maybe the way they play. If they play like they did this weekend, again, it was James Madison, but not striking out twice every inning. I think they had 24 strikeouts for the weekend, which is 8 a game, which is, really good. And a lot of those strikeouts were late in blowouts.
Yeah.
When they were already winning and they were batting kids that maybe wouldn't bat in those spots. I think your top 4 might have struck out 4 times total, 3 times total. And Torrell did twice with the bases loaded, swinging at pitches above his head. If he gets that cleared up, then yeah, man. I think they're going to run. I think they're going to be aggressive. He's going to do a lot of hit and run, and the pitching is dominant, and that's fun to watch. So maybe they'll be one of these teams that kind of catches the imagination of the city and the students, and they'll come out. And there is beer there. It's not free. It's $9, but not that I would know. That's just me guessing. How would I know?
It's not that expensive.
Well, it is. At least what Stephanie had
really?
On Sunday. Yeah.
Well, she got that.
She drinks the good stuff.
Yeah.
She said a soda was $7.50 and the Yingling was $9. So she's like, well, that's an easy choice. Yeah. So she went with the Yingling. But yeah, man, it was. The weather was just great, man. I can't stop talking about the weather, but it was awesome. It was awesome. I watched the whole game on Sunday from the breezeway by the press box. I didn't spend a single pitch in the press box.
Good. Stay on your feet's a good thing. By the way, Tuesdays are $2 Tuesdays is what they call it. First one will be March 8th versus Florida Gulf Coast. I would assume $2 Tuesday means $2 beers, but maybe it's cola. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to give away. They should, but I don't know. That actually might not be a good idea, but I don't think they're going to give away beers for $2. But hey, we'll get back to you with those promo details, everyone, on a later show. I did want to give a shout out to my man Jarrell. He is I guess it's DoorDash. I ordered from a restaurant, and I'm not going to name the restaurant, but he was the driver that delivered the food. And I think that restaurant uses DoorDash, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I came out of the door to get my food, and I see a guy wearing a Florida State jersey, and he goes, "Oh, it is Corey Clark." He goes, "I saw your name pop up," and I'm like, "I wonder if that's the Corey Clark." It is. He goes, "I'm talking to my brother right now who's a huge FSU fan," and we took a picture together.
Yes.
I was wearing I own one piece of Georgia Bulldog merchandise. In my home, there's one piece. I happen to be wearing it. So I guess I'm giving away what I did. But I covered up the Bulldog when I took the picture. I didn't want people to think I was wearing Georgia stuff, but then I just announced it to everyone. So that was dumb. But anyway, Jarrell, you're the man. It was nice meeting you, buddy.
They fed us like kings on Friday and Saturday. Were you too good for the press box food on Sunday?
No, I got some press box food. I just I ate it outside.
Then what was the DoorDash? He came to Hauser.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that was just, it had nothing to do with baseball.
Oh, I thought you were
yeah, no, that was a horrible segue. Yeah, how about that? That would be awesome. I'm in section 11. You'll see me. I'm the bald guy. I'm the bald guy out behind in front of the press box. Yeah, I should do that. That's a good idea. No, they'd fed us well on Sunday too.
to crush everybody's hopes and dreams, $2 Tuesdays is $2 general admission tickets plus $2 select concession items, including hot dogs, popcorn, and sodas. So, sorry, buddy. Also, crushing your hopes and dreams. Let's talk about basketball. Although, I mean, listen, I think Vegas gave Duke 15 points, or gave us 15 points.
16 and a half.
16 and a half.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I should get on the phone with all my friends and be like, do that all day long. I mean, it actually did end up working out in the end. But, I mean, I don't know, for that first 18 minutes in the first half, that team did, I think, everything you asked them to, Corey. I mean, at least everything that upset you about what happened in Chapel Hill the week prior. We didn't see any of that on Saturday against Duke. They played their rear ends off, man. Caleb didn't play. Raekwon Evans didn't play that game, in addition to Anthony Polite being out, Malik Osborne being out, and Naheem McLeod being out. Just an incredibly tough ask for them as Kay's winding down his sort of farewell tour. That was their second to last home game, so that was going to be kind of a tough ask. They do fall against Duke, 88-70. What was your takeaway from Saturday's game on the hardwood? I
just wish Krzyzewski would have laid hands on Leonard Hamilton in the handshake line. What would that see? I was talking with somebody in the press box because we all saw it after the baseball game on Sunday. We were watching the video. Imagine what would happen if an opposing coach went and tried to slap at Leonard Hamilton's head.
By the way, folks, if you don't know what he's talking about, Juwan Howard and Greg Bard from Wisconsin had some words after Wisconsin hammered Michigan, and then the Wisconsin coach put his hands on Juwan Howard. Juwan Howard kind of escalated by putting his hands on the assistant with like a swinging motion. So I'm sure
it
you've
was
all
a slap. It was an open-handed slap to the face. Yes. I mean, it wasn't a swinging motion. He slapped that dude in the face. You can't do that. He'll be suspended multiple games, maybe until the Big Ten tournament. I don't know. I mean, that's his second run-in too.
They said the conference sets it to two game maximum, like $10,000 fine, but the school will probably tack more on top of that. Like Michigan.
Oh, well, they haven't already come out. The Big Ten hasn't already ruled on that, have they?
No, but that's within like their bylaws.
Okay.
I see on Twitter, like within their bylaws, like an altercation like that for a coach, I guess, is capped at 2 games. Because they're also probably not assuming the coach are really going to put hands on one another. But hey, things get testy in the Big Ten, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I just can't. I literally, like, number one, you can't do that, man. But number one, guard doesn't need to be grabbing Howard. But Howard apparently lost his mind when guard called the timeout with whatever it was, 20 seconds left, up by 17. I don't know why he did that, but I also don't know why Juwan Howard was pressing walk-ons. Like, he was full court pressing walk-ons, just like let the game end. So I'm sure guard wasn't happy with that either. Either way, Juwan Howard can't be open-handed slapping fools in a handshake line. You just can't do it. You whether you're instigated or not, whether you feel like the guy shouldn't have grabbed you, you didn't slap the guy that grabbed you. You slapped another guy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I think if because I remember when Florida State was playing, who were they playing? It was one of the Hurleys, not Bobby Hurley, the other Hurley. I think he's in Connecticut. State. Yeah, no, that's Bobby Hurley. I think Danny Hurley is at Connecticut. It was his first year at Connecticut. They were playing in some like Mohegan Sun tournament up there, Florida State was. And Kofor wasn't playing. Kofor was hurt, but he was on the sideline. He was on the bench. And he and Hurley got into it a little bit. Like, because Hurley's a maniac. He is a maniac the whole game, screaming at everyone, screaming at opposing players, screaming at the refs nonstop, screaming at his players. And I think he screamed something, and Kofor said something back to him jokingly. And then Hurley screamed something to him, and then Kofor just pointed at the scoreboard and laughed, which is funny. But, like, imagine that Danny Hurley in the handshake line getting into a little bit of an altercation and then taking a swipe at Leonard Hamilton. The melee that would have ensued, because there's no way Florida State players wouldn't have gone and bum rushed. And because they loved their coach. And I'm sure Michigan guys love their coach too, but that's the problem. That's why you can't start something like that. Because then you have to leave it up to the players to not turn it into a Malice in the Palace type thing. And they're drunk students at that game. Like, you can't do stuff like that. You can't. But you can't escalate it to that point. Even if your manhood is challenged, which it wasn't. You can't escalate to that point. Anyway, back to the point at hand. I just thought that was fun. It was really funny, flipping Juwan. Those late game timeouts, man. He's never been a fan of them.
No.
Drum roll. That's a little reference to Chris Webber. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. By the way, how come you mentioned Tyler Hansbrough when you're talking about UNC last week and like, hey, that wasn't James Worthy out there. That wasn't Tyler Hansbrough's. How come like Eric Montross doesn't get any love?
Screw that guy. He was a big stiff. Hansbrough could actually play. Montross was all hype coming out. So, but anyway, what you talked about with the basketball team is exactly right. Like how they looked against Duke in that first half compared to how they look against Carolina, it was like a different team. And that team against North Carolina had Caleb Mills and Raekwon Evans to start the game. Had Raekwon the whole game. And they just looked completely lethargic, they lacked so much confidence. There was no confidence at all. There was no what for. There was just nothing. In that game against Duke, they knew they were outmanned. You're not going to beat that. You're not going to beat that team. They were literally, Aslan, they were missing their starting five.
Yeah.
Like, I know. Here's the thing. So Malik Osborne didn't start against Duke because I think he was still, they were still nursing his injury, so he came off the bench. But he played 31 minutes. So John Butler was the guy that started against Duke that was here for this game. But John Butler also got his second foul within 45 seconds and then sat the whole first half. So essentially, Florida State was playing Duke without its top 6 players from the first game. Literally, the top 6 players in minutes, in points, everything else, did not play against Duke on Saturday, in the first half anyway. And they were within 2 with 2 minutes to go in the first half. Worley looked better than he has all season, and it hasn't been close. Cleveland finally had some bounce to him. Wilkes made some shots. Wilkes has some deficiencies. We all know it. But he actually stepped up and made some shots when he needed to. And Gom, I thought, played really well for the most part.
Yep.
They were just outmanned, but they weren't outfought. And I thought against North Carolina, they were absolutely outfought. And they were basically punked for 20 minutes. They didn't let Duke do that to them. Duke shot well. Duke went and Duke's just better than them, a lot better than them, especially in that incarnation with your starting five not being there. But with the way Worley and Cleveland played, and Fletcher really, they showed no fear, man. They didn't back down. They didn't shy away from the moment or the building or that team. They went out there and said, yeah, we can play too. And they went and made baskets and made plays. That was good to see, man. I was really, really encouraged by that. Not for anything that's going to happen this year, clearly, but that could be a really big developmental step for all 3 of those guys, in my opinion, going into next season. To have games like that in that building against that team.
I know you were kind of cautioning after the North Carolina game. They had every excuse to be like, hey, like what else do you expect from us? Like this is what it's going to look like. Like you don't want them to fall into that habit. You want to preserve the culture of being 18 strong and playing and fighting and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like the fact they go out there and they played well, but they lost by 18, like we want them to probably build some confidence coming out of that game, or do we hope that that they're still kind of upset and downtrodden about their effort on Saturday? Or they can be downtrodden about the result, but they shouldn't be disappointed in their effort in that game.
Yeah, no, I think that was a confidence builder. I don't think it's something like where you're like, oh, I'm not happy because they weren't going to win that game. It just was not happening. They're smart enough to realize that. The strength that Florida State has against teams like Duke typically is they play 11 dudes and they can wear you out and they can make plays at the end because none of them have played more than 28 minutes. Well, what was their depth on Saturday? They played 2 walk-ons, serious minutes.
Yeah.
In that building. They had to. So no, man, I think it's nothing but a positive. It's nothing but a positive. They were in that game. They were even in the game. I think they were down by 8 with like 18 minutes left, 17 minutes left. They competed. They fought. They went and made confident, strong moves to the basket. They went and dunked or made layups. Worley was great. Worley stepped into 2 threes and knocked them down with confidence. It wasn't like, oh, here goes nothing. He stepped into those shots and buried them and looked good doing it. Really, for the first time. I don't think his shot is fixed or anything. He's still got a lot of work to do, but it looked more competent than it has all season. And yeah, man, I was genuinely surprised. Like, man, I didn't bet on that because we can't get that sportsbook app back on our phones anymore, folks. Hopefully, when that comes back, I will be able to. But if I was going to bet on that game, I would have put a pretty sizable sum on Duke covering that spread. And until
you would have been sweating. You would have been sweating.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
Krzyzewski's grandson hit that 3 in the corner with 30 seconds left. That's the only reason they covered. I mean, Florida State, Ngam made a 3. There were some and ones. You know, Cleveland airballed a free throw. We're going to have to.
No, don't fix it. Don't fix it yet. Come back and work on it next year.
Well, he definitely needs to get in the lab this summer. I mean, look, man, honestly, maybe he goes, maybe he doesn't. It would be, and I don't say this lightly because usually I'll be like, if you can get drafted, go. I think it would be a very big mistake for him to leave because
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't.
I think imagine him he does not hit jumpers at all.
No,
like he takes a lot of 17-foot jumpers and he misses all of them. He scores at the rim right now. Earlier in the season, he was knocking down a few, but I would harbor a guess that his last 21, 25 mid-range jumpers.
Hazard a guess, right?
What did I say? I keep saying Harbor.
You said Harbor. We said this before.
What with that? That's just dumb. That's a weird
it could
speech
technically
tick
work.
I have.
You keep a ship in harbor, like you keep it close by. Like I would keep this guess within my waters, you know, like in my realm.
Right. No, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I would hazard to guess out of the last 25 mid-range jumpers he's taken, he's made 3. Yeah. Like he's just not close with them either. But if he with that athleticism and his ability to score with either hand at the rim, and he stopped rebounding too. I don't know if they are asking him. I'm sure they're not asking him not to rebound. Like, Matthew, come on, settle down. Quit grabbing all these rebounds. But like the last 2 Saturdays, I think he's had a total of 4 rebounds. You got to figure that out. But with all the other things he can do, if he can develop that part of his game, passing quicker in the open court, sometimes he'll hold on to it a little too long, but also just shooting. If he can get in the lab and make his shot an average to above average jump shot, he could legitimately be a top 10 pick. He could be the ACC player of the year. Legitimately. Or he could go pro and be like the 28th pick or the 33rd pick or whatever he'd be and try to make it on an NBA team. If he's the 9th pick in an NBA team, they are going to play you that next year a lot. So it's not just going, I mean, you know, when you're somebody like me, yeah, man, I entered the draft. I would have gone anywhere. I would have gone, whoever drafted me, I'd have gone. I'd be like, yeah, it's a great opportunity. For a guy like Matthew Cleveland, there is a huge difference between, all right, I'm gonna go now, and maybe a team takes a feeler on me, a chance on me at some point in the late 20s or early 30s, or I wait a year and I can be a top 10 pick. You're talking about tens of millions of dollars in difference, plus the opportunity to play. If the Warriors draft him with the 30th pick, he's never going to play. So how much is he going to develop? Yes, he gets money, but you know, look at Fiondu Kabengele, man. Sometimes you get a bad opportunity. You start bad. You get drafted in the 20s, and yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. You're an NBA player. You're guaranteed to making $5 million over that 3-year span, but then your career is over. Yeah. Opposed to, like, say if Kabengele had come back and developed into a top 10 pick, well, he'd be playing for a team right now, and he might be coming up on an extension. So there is more to it than just go get money, go get paid, because there's that second contract. And there's a bigger first contract if you put in the work and become a much better player. And I think that's what people are going to be thinking about a lot this summer this offseason when it comes to this basketball team, because when you watch what Worley did on Saturday, for the first time you're like, man, that can play. That kid can play, and he could be a difference maker for quite a few years here. Fletcher is just a freak athlete. He's got to learn some things, but you put Fletcher and Cleveland on the same floor again next year, maybe going along with Osborne and some other guys if they come back or some transfers, you have a chance to have a really good team. And so that's a really interesting decision Matthew Cleveland has to make. In no way is he ready, but most kids aren't when they enter the league. I mean, there aren't that many Tim Duncans out there or LeBrons that are obviously ready right away. It's a learning curve anyway. But man, if he came back and could work himself into a top 10 pick, which is I don't know if it's a likelihood, but it's at least a possibility. Not only does that help him, but man, it would help Florida State, because I do think there's some for the first time with especially Worley, man. Worley impressed me more than anybody else on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what it had to do with it, I think he finished with 15, 7, and 6.
Correct.
Which I think were all career highs, and he did it in that building with his backup was a walk-on, so he played like 35 minutes. And he was good. I mean, he was really close to a lot of more rebounds and steals. He was just had a couple bad luck, some steals that bounced off his hands and stuff. But you can see the athleticism there finally. And I think what helped him was he knew he wasn't going to get pulled out of the game. Like, there was no Raekwon. So he could play carefree. And he could go take those shots knowing that if he made a mistake, who are they going to go to? Linder? Like, you're on the floor, man. So go play. Go act like you belong because you do. And he did look like he belonged. Him, Fletcher, and Cleveland absolutely belonged on that court with Duke. And that was very, very good to see. Those guys did not look any different than the dudes Duke was running out there, in my opinion. I mean, obviously Banchero's a different animal, but they fit right in with those athletes at Duke. So, and they're all first-year guys. And that was by far the best they had all played collectively together. So, yeah, positive sign. They couldn't guard anyone. They have too many guys that can't stay in front of people. They don't play zone well, and they tried it, but they're limited, man. But I thought those three especially were really impressive.
They're back in action. They got on a plane right after the game Saturday in Durham and headed to Boston. They're taking on Boston College tonight at 7 o'clock. Florida State currently sits 9th in the ACC right now. So that gets them like a quasi-bye in the conference tournament, which is their only sort of lifeline salvation to get to the big dance, which, again, this is a very, 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 very slim possibility. But you never know what happens in these conference tournaments. Duke goes down early maybe, or North Carolina. Something crazy happens, and if you have Raekwon back and you have Caleb back and
Raekwon Gray?
Raekwon Evans,
Oh,
wish
okay.
we had Raekwon Gray. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. I wonder, like, that's another guy. Like, Raekwon Gray, I don't think has played a minute in the NBA. He was drafted. He's in the G League right now. I wonder if
and Balsha, I don't think he's in the.
Yeah, but I think Balsha was just ready to leave. Like he went to Europe. Like, he's just in Europe making money. He's probably making more money than Raekwon, actually. I wonder if Raekwon Gray regrets it at all, or wonders if he should have come back. Because he's kind of, he's still living the, he's still playing professional basketball, and I'm sure he's still, he's his first year of professional basketball, so it's not like his career story has been written. But he's not, he's not in the NBA. He's in G League games playing in front of 300 people instead of in Cameron. You play in front of a lot more people, and I just wonder if these guys now, especially with NIL out there, if they're going to regret these decisions a little more. And I hope it works out for Raekwon Gray, and it very well could. I mean, he's playing well in the G League, so maybe the Nets will call him up. But yeah, you wonder, like, okay, was that really for the betterment of his career to go pro, to be a G League player? Is this going to end up being better for him than if he'd have come back and maybe contended for ACC Player of the Year at Florida State? What's better for him long term? There's really no way to know. I mean, you can't go back and change it. But that's the things you wonder with these guys. Kabengele, I wonder if he regrets leaving and never. He's drafted by the Clippers, never really got to play. Terrence Mann was drafted later than him by the Clippers, and Terrence Mann is basically a starter and signed a new contract. So yeah, it's all opportunity, and it's a little bit of it's a guessing game.
Yeah, Fiondu's down in Texas, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers.
Yeah,
of the G League. Meanwhile, Raekwon's getting a little bit more than 26 minutes a game, averaging 7, and about 4. So, yeah, keep it up. I would assume he probably knew that was his path. I mean, he probably had, like, this hope that, I can maybe make a roster, but ultimately thought, I'll go. Yeah,
I don't think you declare early to go to the G League. Like, I think he thought he'd be the 11th guy on a team. And he might end up being that. But, I think
the 59th pick. There's only 60 picks, right?
It's tough to you declare yourself early for the draft and then you're barely drafted. He was almost undrafted as an early entry. These guys got to. I mean, there's only 60 picks, man. These guys got to know what they're doing. They got to. Balsa was drafted, right? And he didn't even. I don't think he even stayed in training camp. He just went overseas. It's tough to ask these. It's tough to ask these kids to put their dreams on hold. You know what I mean? Like. It's so, especially when you've had a good season like Raekwon did last year, and it's so close. The apple is so close. Like, the dream you've always wanted is right there. I'm an NBA player. I'm going to get drafted. And it's like, well, you're on the fringe, bud. You're on the fringe. And it turns out they don't think you're an NBA player right now. Maybe if you'd have come back to school and put up, 17, 7, and 6 and been an ACC Player of the Year candidate and had a couple big moments in March, maybe you are then an NBA player. Maybe you get drafted in the first round. Maybe you fly that far up the draft boards. But I root for all these guys, and I hope they work out. I don't want them to regret their decisions. Just like I don't regret ever meeting you, Aslan. I don't. Some people ask me that. A lot of people ask me that, actually.
Come on now.
And I'm like, no, Aslan and I, it's something about us. It's just like peas and carrots.
That's right.
Peas and carrots.
That's right. Koprivica drafted 57th overall, apparently by the Hornets, and was traded to the Pistons for Mason Plumlee and JT Thor. So look at that. He was a piece. He was
part of a transaction.
Yeah, look at that. So
Big time.
He's playing back home in Serbia, which is like, I mean, couldn't you just have done this and stayed in Serbia the whole time? Like, I love that you came to Tallahassee. It's great. But, yeah, he's playing for Partizan Belgrade.
Yeah, that's a good point. He could have just,
Adriatic.
Yeah, why come over here to just go back over there and play basketball? You could have done that the whole time. Yeah. Good point. But hey, he got to experience March Madness.
Yeah, he did. Got to hang out. He went to Windermere Prep. He got a little taste of everything. He lived in Fort Lauderdale for a little bit, like Butler. Good for him.
Got to meet Scotty Barnes.
Yeah. Although, did you see Scotty in that? They did some weird on Friday night, rookies versus second team or sophomores or whatever.
So yeah.
And it was like horse, but there was designated spots you and your teammate had to start, and you had to make like a layup, then you had to make a corner three, a three from the elbow, and then like a Damian Lillard from the logo shot. And Scotty missed 4 layups, but then his teammate missed the layup too. So so it wasn't just Scotty's fault only, but. They were talking about how awesome Scotty Barnes is, and then literally like from point blank, he missed like 4 layups.
Well, he's used to dunking those.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't lay things in.
Yeah, no. Every time he was on the screen this whole entire All-Star weekend, everybody was talking about how great and awesome he is. So
he's legitimate, man. He might end up being like a better Draymond Green. Like he does everything better than Draymond. I shouldn't say that. Well, he absolutely is more likable, but he's a really good defender. He's long. He rebounds. He passes. He's shooting it okay. Like, I think he's about 30% from 3 this year, and he's in the 70s in free throw percentage. So he's showing that he can shoot it okay, and he does everything else so well, man. I don't know if he's going to win Rookie of the Year, but he'll be in the conversation.
Yeah. All right, that is a wrap for us. Again, reminder, basketball team does play tonight, 7 o'clock. Tune in, root them on. Hang on that 9th spot. Don't want to slip any further and have to play, 6 games in the tournament. The ACC tournament, that is. Watch the documentary on the ACC network, everybody. Learn about our rich history in basketball, this conference. We love it. We'll drop another 2 of these for you this week, most likely, everybody. At least, because that's what we do.
I think we might have a live show, too, Aslan.
Probably.
Yeah. Probably going to have a live show.
Oh, hey, look at that. The conference tournament's back in Brooklyn this year.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right in the footprint. Yeah. Right in the ACC footprint. Brooklyn, New York.
For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.